It's Wednesday and we're live. It's Wedding Wednesday, guys. Thank you for joining us again. Always lots of good things to talk about. Just waiting for everyone to join. Hi Anna, hi Christina, hi Natalie, Pamela, how are you guys? Love seeing my brides on here. If you have any questions, you can throw them at me. You can DM me if you feel more comfortable. And every week we're doing Wedding Wednesday and we will be answering your questions. So if you didn't get a chance to send me questions earlier in the week, you can send them now and I will try not to miss them. Hi Alessia. Hi Christina. Today we are talking about many things. We're always going to touch a bit on COVID. So if you're wondering where we are at with COVID right now, where I personally am at, all of my July weddings have moved their weddings, some to further in the year, some to next year. There are some halls that have now opened up some summer dates next year. I know that a few halls it was a struggle to get that. So again, I'm always going to say, call your hall, ask what your options are. And if they're telling you that you can't move until past March, if you can't move your wedding yet because you're still in July or you're in August, they don't want you to move yet. Just be patient. They're trying to get to everybody, one wedding at a time, 1 week at a time, 1 month at a time, whatever they're doing. And they're trying to keep people, later in the year or in the beginning of next year. So prime dates for, new clients are not taken up all summer next year. Also, if you just are patient, slowly, they will start opening up spring dates and summer dates for next year. But I have heard there's some halls who are opening up summer dates. So that's great. If you've moved your wedding, from May to May, June to June, July to July, that is a whole year. So, good for you for having the patience to wait another year to get married. You can, spend more time being a fiance before you really have to take on those responsibilities. And, you can slow down your planning a bit and maybe you'll come up with other ideas. And, but I do suggest if you are getting married next year, whether you have moved it or you are a new engaged bride, groom, and you're getting married next year, planning on getting married next year, I would, don't just sit back, keep planning, because next year there's going to be almost double the weddings. So I would try to, if there's someone that you really want to hire for your wedding, if there's a person, who doesn't have a team, let's say, like if there's a special singer that you want for your wedding, I would contact them now. Even if you just have a tentative date, to see if they're available, to see if, a lot of venues or vendors will hold dates for you. So if you're still not sure if you're going to move your date or you haven't picked a date for next year, you're a new bride, but you have some dates in mind, again, call your church, call your venue, that you're interested in, call whoever you're interested in hiring, and just see if they'll hold dates for you, what dates they have available. It doesn't hurt to ask, and it never hurts to have a conversation. So right now, if you are a July bride, from speaking to other people, July is moving. Some July weddings have stayed put. Someone asked me in the questions, do I think fall weddings are going to happen? Again, I don't know all the answers. I'm hoping that in June things will start to lighten up. Again, that doesn't mean that if they open everything up in June, you can't just have a wedding in a week. If you were in June and you moved your wedding, you made a good choice. If you're in July, you're still sitting on your date. I mean, the only thing you have to consider is that will people show up? If they just open up doors to, hey, go ahead and have a wedding. The other issue we are going to probably run into now is, the government has said we're going to open things up slowly. Now, we don't know what that means in the wedding industry. We don't know if that means, okay, go ahead, you can start having weddings in August. Or if they're going to say, you can start having weddings, but you can only have 100. And next month we'll let you have 200. And that's an issue. That's a big issue because, some venues won't let you lower your numbers. So if I was you, I would start calling your venue, just seeing what your options are if you had to lower your numbers. And if you've sent out invites and you've invited 300 people and then the hall tells you you're only allowed 100, you're going to be put in a situation where you might have to call people and say, hey, I know I sent you that invite, but now because of this COVID thing, I'm disinviting you. And I really would not want to be in that situation if I was you. So try your best to avoid that. Maybe don't send out invites until you know how the government's going to start rolling things out. And again, don't panic if you have to send an invite a month and a half before your wedding and you only give them 2 weeks to reply. I wouldn't really allow them to reply later. Within the final month. They can do that, but that's going to be hard on your florist and your venue. And if you have to go get Bomagnetti, you do need numbers. So give yourself a month, especially because, there's always a week where people don't reply and you have to call them and chase them. That happens all the time. So I still say stick to your at least 1 month reply date, but you can send them out a little bit later and give them less time to reply, because I don't really think it takes that long to reply. It doesn't take a month or two to send something back. And if people need time to make their decision, most of the time when they get an invite, they already know when the date is, so they should have already decided if they were coming to your wedding. An invite is really just mostly to say, this is where you got to go and this is what time. So today, I know I saw them join in. I don't know if Enduring Promises has asked to join, but if Brian, if you're still there, push the join button, ask to join, and I will add you in. And let me check if you've done that, because I don't see that here. No. Okay, so ask to join in and we'll get you in this conversation. There you go. Okay. Let's see if this works. Some days it just doesn't want to work. So we are waiting for them to join, and we have Enduring Promises coming on. Enduring Promises, there we go. I'll let him introduce himself. Hello, how are you?
Hi, Rosemary. How are you?
Good. So want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Brian from Enduring Promises. We are wedding officiants in the province of Ontario and Alberta as well. We are very excited to be on here with you this evening and talk about wedding ceremonies and some of the issues that are around wedding ceremonies, especially during COVID time. I personally have been officiating weddings now. This is my 26th year. And so it's been...
So you started when you were like 5?
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah, that would be both nice and very weird at the same time, right? Yeah, I started really young. That's okay. I started really young, yeah.
Yeah, so, okay.
And about 10 years ago, about 5-6 years ago, I started working with Enduring Promises. And then about 2 years ago, I had the opportunity to lead the company and take the company over and lead it. So that's what I've been doing for the last 2 years, and still doing weddings as well as managing the business side of Enduring Promises. So that's a little bit about me. My wife works with me in the business now. She does most of the admin stuff, and she's on here tonight watching as well. Her name is Angela. And
hi, Angela. Actually, I met your wife.
Yes,
because she ran a rehearsal. She ran a rehearsal for one of our weddings. Yes.
Yes, I had a previous rehearsal under conflict, and so she jumped in and did the rehearsal for me with you. And so we work together, and we have about just over 50 officiants now on the team. Most of those are in the GTA. We do have coverage all the way from Windsor to Ottawa, and we do have some in Calgary as well. So we've got pretty wide range of...
That's amazing.
Yeah, pretty wide range of officiants. In Alberta, they're called, not quite called officiants over there. They got a bit of a different term for it, but it's the same thing. Yeah. So that's a bit about...
Sorry, let me ask you.
Sure.
What does it take, like, what do you have to do to become an officiant? You need to be ordained? You need to be, someone told me the other day, you can go online and just take a course and you can officiate your friend's wedding. How does it work?
No. You can't just take a course and officiate a wedding. Apparently some states you can do that, but not in Canada. So basically, to become an officiant in the province of Ontario, and every province has their own guidelines and rules, not the same thing applies everywhere, but in Ontario, it's you basically have to be licensed through some religious or spiritual body first. And then that religious or spiritual body then registers you with the province of Ontario to be able to do weddings. So it's a two-step process. That can be anything from the Anglican Church of Canada to the Roman Catholic Church, or it can be something like the Humanist League of Canada. And so it's a wide-ranging religious, spiritual body that you can be recognized, ordained, be a member of, whatever their terms are, and then they register you, as I say, with the province of Ontario.
Cool. So I should start
Yeah,
now.
you should start now.
Are there a lot of women officiants?
Actually, you know what? More and more there are. Yes, we're getting more and more inquiries for female officiants for sure, and it is growing the number of ladies that are being licensed to be a part of during wedding officiating, and I think that's a wonderful thing. I think it's great. I mean, I think it's a
I joke around because there's so many times where I'm put in a situation. I've had to become a florist. I've had to become a cake baker. I've had to become, someone who knows how to sew magically. I've been the limo driver because things have happened like
a
last minute.
limo driver as well. Wow,
Well,
good for
I've
you.
had to put bridal parties in my minivan and say, "Let's go. This limo's not coming. You gotta go." It's happened. So I just thought to myself, "Oh my gosh, not that it's ever happened. Knock on wood, especially not with you guys." But what would happen, like, if we're stuck and, the officiant just doesn't show up, hopefully it never happens, but that would be good for me to have as a backup.
Well, there's two things. I mean, yeah, hopefully an officiant never uh, doesn't show up. Let's hope
Yeah.
and pray that that never happens for anybody,
No.
and certainly won't happen for any of our team. We require all of our officiants to show up 30 minutes before the start of the ceremony, and that's what's
Hmm.
on the contract. We contractually agree to that, so we're always there in lots of time. However, having said that, if for some reason an officiant of ours is booked for a wedding and they can't make it, so let's say, for example, they get into a motor vehicle accident on the way there, every weekend during wedding season, we have an officiant that we call a backup officiant. So that officiant doesn't do weddings on that weekend. They're literally on call. And so
That's
they can be at the venue wherever it is, as quickly as possible. So for
amazing.
example, if an officiant ends up in a hospital during the week, we would make an early call on that and say to the couple, you know what, sorry, but Brian, for example, is not available to be at your ceremony this weekend because of medical reasons. And then we would put our backup into place. And so that would be taken care of. But in the unlikely event that an officiant didn't make it, anybody can step in and narrate the ceremony. The couple just wouldn't be legally married at
I
that
was just
point.
going to say that. I could probably just
Yeah,
pretend because I probably have ceremonies memorized by now. I could
right?
probably do a whole
Yeah,
church hour-long one if I had to.
right.
And, these ceremonies are usually about 20 minutes, the typical ceremony, right?
Yeah,
And yeah, we could just wing it. No one has to know. And then they can sign it, with someone
yeah.
after
Then
and
they
do a
can,
single ceremony after.
right, they can meet up with an
Yeah.
officiant down the road or the next week or whenever they come back and do the legal stuff then. The
Yeah.
marriage license that they get is good for 90 days. So
Mhm.
usually a couple would get that about a month or so away from the wedding. So they have some extra time after the date of the wedding before it actually expires to take care of
Mhm.
that if they need to. But again, we've never had an officiant not show up for a wedding. That's something that
Yeah.
we it just wouldn't
No.
happen.
Well, the good
Wouldn't
thing
happen.
is what you're saying is, you come a half an hour before.
Yeah,
So, if someone's 5 minutes late on my schedule, I'm starting to call. And
right.
usually the groom's there half an hour to an hour before, and the groom will start calling or
Yeah,
something. And so then it gives you a good half an hour to get someone there, right? As opposed to
yeah,
it being like, okay, we got to start now, nobody's here. So
yeah.
that's
I
good.
mean, the last thing we want is to be walking in the door and being ushered right to the front because we're ready to start. Like, you never
Well, you
want
have to
that.
prepare. You have to make
Yeah,
sure your pen works, first of
you
all,
have to
right?
make sure your pen works.
So let
Absolutely.
me ask you a question. Do you bring the pen?
I do.
No, sometimes the bride has her fancy pen, but I'm always like, I
Yeah,
hope he has a backup. If not, there's one in my bag.
right.
Okay,
Yeah.
so what do they need? What do they need? If they're going to have an officiant and they're not going to a church, what do they need? Just the marriage license?
Basically, yeah, that's the only legal document that they would need to have in advance is the marriage license. That can be acquired under normal conditions. That can be acquired through
Mhm.
any city hall in the province of Ontario. So, for example, if a couple lives in Vaughan and they're getting married in Toronto, they don't have to go down to Toronto to get their license. They can get it at the closest city hall to them. Or if they're visiting the parents in cottage country and it's a smaller city and it's no lineup to get the license, they can get it there.
Oh, that's good
It
to know.
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter which city they get it at. What's important is
Mhm.
that they get it from any municipality in the province of Ontario, and that they get it not more than 90 days prior to their wedding date. So it expires in 90 days. And so I always generally suggest to couples that they put it in their phone or their reminder, whatever system they have, about a month to 6 weeks out. And then
Mhm.
that way, that still gives you some time after the ceremony is over, just in case there's any glitch that took place. And, in this case, some weddings that were planned for March and April got bumped out.
Yes, that was
And
gonna.
now the marriage license is still in limbo. What's happening? What's going on with that? So yeah,
But you can
that's the
also
only,
get it's valid like the day you get it, right? So you could technically get one the day before and get married the next day.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The day
So a
that you
lot of
get it is an issue date, and it's good anytime between that date and 90 days from that date. Yeah,
and this
yeah.
is not something you get online, correct?
You
You have to
can
go in
apply,
person.
correct. You can apply for it. There's an application that you can download from Service Ontario. There's an application that you fill out, and then you take that into the City Hall. I have heard recently that they are moving towards an online ordering system, but I have not been able to confirm that for sure. But I know you can print it off and take it in, and then one of the two need to go in and pick it up to City
Okay,
Hall.
that was going to be my question. They don't both
You,
have to go, right?
they don't both have to go, but you do have to take the ID for the other person as well. So
So
you
you need
need
to
to,
bring both IDs with you to go get it.
correct, and not
Okay,
photocopies. You need to take the original
that's what I do.
IDs. And
Mhm.
typical two pieces of ID, one photo, and then one other one. I understand is accurate. But you can go to the Service Ontario website, and it because it keeps changing day by day, week by week, month
Yeah.
by month.
So,
But that's generally how it happens. Yeah,
so a question for you.
sure.
All these memes and these jokes or whatever they have online, I just want you to tell us, um, it, what's this question? What happened? I heard a
What's
voice.
that?
Okay, I don't know.
Oh,
I heard a voice. If do all three people have to be present in the same room in order for it to be legal? Like, could you do, a wedding if I was here with my fiance right now and do a FaceTime wedding with me and marry us, or is that not legal?
no, you
You
right
cannot.
now in
You
the
have to be.
province of Ontario, you can't do a virtual signing. So
Mhm.
you have to be in the room with the officiant, the couple, and two witnesses. So there needs to be a five-person group to do a signing. Um,
Mhm.
Whether that will change as we get further and deeper into COVID, I don't know. But right now, it's not even on the radar, as far as I understand, to be able to do it in Ontario. I have heard of, again, some states in the US that can do it, but not in Ontario because there needs to be a physical signing and it
Mhm.
needs to be signed in the presence of the witnesses.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Good
that's
to know.
now
All,
you
all
can,
these, internet funny things. I'm like, I hope people don't think
right?
that they're setting themselves up to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
We
mean,
just, sorry.
like in our given situation, you can do a legal signing with five people, and then that can be streamed or broadcast via
Yes.
Zoom or whatever to
Mhm.
somebody else. And there's no limitation there, but the signing itself needs a five-person body
Hmm.
to be a
And
part of it.
we're allowed to gather in five right now, so you can do it, right? I would, if I was you, I would probably stay 6 feet away. Have
Correct.
you done any during this time?
Yes.
You
So
have.
yeah, we have. Yeah. So
Mhm.
basically the way this is working, and it's very, and this is one of the concerns that I have, there's no clear directive from the government to say you can or you can't. And
Mhm.
it's very very much a, well, we'll keep asking questions and hopefully at some point we get the right answer. But we have been told by government agencies that you can do a legal signing still. You do have to practice all of the social distancing. You have to practice even my trusty little pen. For this time, I ask them to use their own pen to sign so that there's one less point of contact.
Yeah.
And then other than that, we can still do a signing, but it has to be 5 people. All the social distancing practices have to take place. And then that, as I said earlier, that can be streamed to other people if you want it to be. So I see there is a question about no COVID marriages then. Well, yes, technically there can be COVID marriages. They just have to be what we call a legal signing or a small elopement with 5 people. And then what you do with it in terms of broadcasting it out, that's entirely up to you. So technically, yes, there can still be signings. Some municipalities are still issuing licenses, but
Okay, I'm telling people no, from what I know.
right, but it's on an emergency basis only.
Okay.
So, for
Which would
example,
be like,
well, what we've been able to find out so far is illness in the family, whether it's one of the 2 people that's getting married, or whether it's a family member, or whether it's an immigration issue.
yeah.
So there is some provision for marriage licenses to be issued under those conditions.
Okay.
But
So there are
again,
some government offices open, some of them.
well, what they're doing is you would have to make an appeal to the local municipality. And then if they feel that you've presented a strong enough case, then they would set up a meeting with you, an in-person meeting with you. And then if they feel that it's appropriate, then they would issue the license for you to do it. What they are asking though is they are asking that the couple has an officiant in place before they issue the license.
Okay.
So in other words, one of the criteria is that they need to meet is that they already have talked to an officiant or have the name of an officiant. So that's it's technically we're not listed as an essential business.
I know.
But there is provisions we are told that we can continue to do the legal signings again based on all of the restrictions.
So when this was happening and they first, said we could have 5 people, I was talking to a photographer and they were saying, this couple wants to do their wedding and they want me there. And I said, well, they need an officiant and them too. Does that mean like photo, video are going to be the witnesses? Because that's the only way you could do it, right? I don't think that ended up happening, but this was the conversation. And this is a thing too that I keep repeating to people that this has never happened before. And I find, and like you mentioned before, I'm finding that in our industry, a lot of times, first of all, they're going on TV and they're announcing you can only have 50 people or 5 people, and they're not. For me, I don't think they're taking into consideration these kinds of events, or they're not speaking to someone in the wedding industry, because then we're all scrambling like, okay, so what are we allowed to do? And am I essential or not? And these people really have to get married because their fiance is going to get shipped back to his country. Then you are essential, right? So, I even was speaking to a priest who I might have on here, technically you can have 5 people close, gathering of 5 people, but if you're in a huge church and you have like 5 sections of 5 people, is that like illegal because they're gathering in fives, but they're so far from each other? Like there's loopholes, right? How does that work?
Well, from what I understand is that any building, any meeting, you can only have 5 people, regardless of what part of the room. So it doesn't matter how big the room is or how small the room is. The room has to be big enough, of course, to have 6 feet between
those 5 people.
Well, 3 of the 5, because the couple, if they're living together or whatever, they're already in contact with each other, right? So assuming that they're okay to be together, then the other 3 people, the officiant and the 2 witnesses, need to maintain their distancing. Now, if it's 4 people that live together, so let's say it's a couple and then you know,
The parents.
parents or whatever,
Mhm.
it's a judgment call on their part whether they maintain 6 feet distancing. But as an officiant, I'm going to go in and I'm going to maintain my 6 feet distancing, which is hard for me because when I go in to see a couple, the first thing I want to do is hug them or shake their hand or whatever, and it's kind of an awkward moment, you know, where you meet up with them and say, "Hi, I'm here to marry you, but I can't shake your
I can't
hand. I
touch it.
can't,
Yeah,
you know, I
I
can't
can't
even
imagine.
fist pump you at this point." So
I can't
it's
imagine. You know what?
kind.
And I have to say, on a side note, um, there's one thing, like every time I see your name on the roster or like I see your face there, I get excited because, I've obviously worked with other officiants, and I say this about everybody that you hire at a wedding, like you need to sit, and we're going to talk about how you do your meetings as well, but you
Sure.
need to sit and talk to people. But my point is, you're very entertaining when
Mm.
you are officiating. You're not, when you go, and there's priests like that too, there's priests
Yeah, of
that are,
course. Yeah, yeah.
and you need someone who's not just, so take his hand and whatever. I can't even do it. But I mean, I've had some that are just, and then I've had some that try to crack jokes and they're inappropriate. And I'm just like, oh my God, where's Brian? you know? So,
Keep
you
going,
need,
keep going.
and those types of ceremonies, especially, like, they don't have to be so, um, nerve-wracking. Like there's nothing to be
Right.
nervous about. Even yeah, I tell them all the time, just be happy. And
Yeah.
if your officiant makes a joke, like that's just to help you also relax and let you know that this is okay. We're getting married. Like,
Yeah.
there doesn't have to be those nerves. So I really appreciate that when you're officiating for
Well,
my
thank you.
my couples. Yeah,
Thank you
it
so
makes a
much. And
difference.
I love what I do. All of our officiants, we love what we do. And when you love what you do, it shows, generally speaking. And before every ceremony that happens, I mean, after 26 years of doing ceremonies, and I do literally dozens every year, it never gets old. And I still get that lump in my throat a little bit every time just before the ceremony starts because, yeah, it may be my, 50th wedding of the season, but it's this couple's first,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
it's hopefully their last, but it's their day, and there's no excuse for not being at your best, so
Yeah.
there's always that.
It's funny that you say that you still get nervous, you get that lump in your throat, because I get worried when I'm not nervous. Like
Right.
I'm there from the morning, like I'll start like 7, 8, whatever it is in the morning. And if I don't have like some kind of stomach issue happening where I know I'm so nervous, like
Yeah.
then I worry. Then I go to my assistant and I'm like, my stomach's not hurting, something's gonna go wrong.
Right.
So I mean, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it, but
Well,
you
for
think that
me,
it's
for me, I've been asked the question by couples as I meet with them. I've been asked about, how I feel about a ceremony and stuff, and I say it this way: it's not like I don't feel nervous because I'm quite comfortable speaking in front of people and presenting the ceremony and narrating it. But I feel a weight, a responsibility of
Mhm.
making sure that, I'm on my game. I'm not just mailing this one in. This one is as important as, all of the other ones I've done the rest of the season, and so for me, it's about that moment, and all of our officiants feel the same way. We like to say we don't hire officiants; we have them join the team, and we are a team of officiants that work together. And the nice thing is you can pull one out if, for some reason, as we talked about earlier, there was a medical issue,
Mhm.
or sometimes we've had a couple of situations where, an officiant agrees to marry a couple maybe a year and a half, 2 years down the road, and maybe they have a family wedding come up. We had
Mhm.
one of our officiants, his grandson was getting married, and of course he's going to be at his grandson's wedding. And so we had to make a substitution there, and we talked to the couple, and they were okay with it. And it was a matter of them being able to jump in, and you can pull one officiant out and put another one in, and we all have great experience. And regardless of the experience, each officiant still gets the same training orientation when they join the team. So
So
there's a
do the clients meet their officiant that they're going to have on their wedding day beforehand? Do they pick, or how does it work?
Yeah, so the way it works, thank you so much, Fidan. I see Fidan is on here as well tonight. Thank you, Fidan. Yeah, so the way this works is a couple will go to our website very first, which is enduringpromises.com, and click on Inquire About an Officiant. That gives us date, time, location, their names, of course, and very basic information when and where the wedding is going to take place. Sometimes the wedding planners will fill that out for their couples, but other times couples will fill it out themselves. Then what we do is we take a look at it and we determine geography, where is the wedding taking place, what officiants do we have in the area. If the couple is asking for a specific officiant, then we'll always see if that officiant is available first. If they are, then we'll send out that officiant's profile. If they're not specifying a certain officiant, then what we'll do is determine based on geography, based on availability of both the officiant and what the couple is looking for. Sometimes the couple will put in the comment section, for example, we want someone with a little humor, someone that's lighthearted, or they may say we want someone that's a little older, more of a senior, more of a grandfather or grandmother type look, or they may ask for a certain nationality of officiant, or they may ask for a female officiant, which we're finding quite a bit of. So whatever those requirements are, then we would determine who are the best fit. And we'll always try to send out 3 profiles. Sometimes it's 2, sometimes it's 3. We'll send out the profiles of the officiants. And then the couple will decide, okay, of the 3 officiants that we've received, the profiles, we'll meet up with Angela. And when they meet up with Angela, then they sit down with her. Usually it's COVID, excluding COVID, of course. It's usually at Starbucks or Tim Hortons, somewhere like that. And we'll show them what we can do for them, how we give them the tools to create their own ceremony. And then if they're comfortable, then they book that officiant, then they move forward with that one. So they get to choose. We like to stress to the couple that you never book an officiant just because you're meeting with them, because we want to make sure that it's a right fit. The officiant that's at the front of the room has to be a good fit with the couple. And I've met with couples and I said, look, if you're not comfortable with me, don't book me just because you met with me. I'm a big boy. I can handle it. I can take it. I want you to be happy with the officiant that you're choosing. And if you want me to be that, then I'm happy to do it. But I want you to be very happy with the officiant that you choose. So that's the process of how they become connected to an officiant. So it's not like
I didn't even know that they, had a choice. I really didn't even know that.
Yeah, no, we don't. We never assign officiants to anybody. We never ask for a deposit until they've met with the officiant. When they meet with the officiant and they say, yes, we want to book Mike, then they'll pay a deposit to reserve Mike for that date and time. And then Mike works with them to coach them through the process of creating the ceremony. So if you could allow me to touch on creating the ceremony for a second, because that's a big deal with us. We never
Before you talk about creating the ceremony, one thing I want to know, do you have a discussion with them about life and marriage and anything about, like, have they had any classes or anything?
We don't formally, officially say that you have to. We do have some officiants on the team that are licensed counselors. Many of the officiants on the team have been involved in ministry inside of a church, and so they're used to counseling couples and stuff. And so it's an option, but it's not a prerequisite. More than happy to set them up with somebody if they want to, but it's not a prerequisite by any means.
Okay, good to know. Okay. Go ahead. Okay. Let's talk about ceremonies.
So ceremonies. So what we have, and I don't even know if you've seen it, to be honest with you, Rosemary. I don't think you've seen it, maybe. I don't know. But we have an online portal that the couple gets access to. And what we've done is we've broken the ceremony down into bite-sized pieces. So
I
for
think I have
example,
seen it once, one of my clients.
oh, did you? Okay.
I think I
So
went through it with one of
so basically every part of a ceremony, so from opening words all the way down to vows, to readings, to the ring exchange, right down to the very end of how we're going to invite the couples to kiss. Every little section of that has its own little box. And in each box, there's suggestions as to wording content. So we like to word it this way: is the couple creates the ceremony, we give them access to a library of content, and then the officiant that they choose to work with is still there with them, coaching them through the process of creating the ceremony that they want. So for example, they may want a ceremony that's very lighthearted and humorous, maybe with a lot of humor in it. Other couples may say, we want this to be more formal. We want it to be, sort of a royal feel to it. And so whatever that looks like to the couple, they're the ones that's setting the tone. But the officiant is there to coach them through the process and say, okay, that would work great at, venue A, but venue B may not work as well. Or it may be a good setup if indeed we can be outdoors for your wedding. But if it's a venue where there's an outdoor location and that's what they want, what happens if it rains and you have to go inside? What would that do to the ceremony? Does that change the structure of the ceremony at all? And so those are the things that the officiant does to help the couple through creating the ceremony. So that's what I mean by we give them access to a console to create the ceremony.
Yeah, and it's always nice to know that, and I say this to everybody, talk to the people that you want to work with. And also,
Right.
like, the reason we talk to them is because we want to know about them and we want a touch of them to be there. We don't want it to sound so like robotic.
Right.
Now, do you find do you also offer couples to make their own vows, or is it always repeat after me?
No, for vows, we give them options in the portal itself. So there's pre-written vows there that they can look at and choose from. Even those, though, they can take them and edit them and make them their own. For the actual ceremony, we try to encourage the couple to read their vows to each other. So instead of the officiant saying, okay, Rosemary, please repeat after me, I prefer if Rosemary reads to whoever, as opposed to repeating after me. To me, it sounds like you're being coerced to say something. And I think it's more natural and more personal if the couple can read to each other. Sometimes I have couples say, well, I'm going to be too nervous to read my own vows. And I often reply back and say, well, I think, to be honest with you, if you're nervous, it's better to read your vows because you can move at your own pace. You're not moving at my pace. I'm not as emotionally involved in it, and I don't know what word you're going to say that's going to trigger that emotional response. And so instead of me having to kind of track back and wait for you to reply, if you're reading your vows and there's a moment when you have to stop, take a breath and relax, it's okay. We're not going anywhere. Take your time, take a breath, and let's get you through the rest of your vows. And so what we try to do, always depending on the venue, of course, but what I try to do and what we all on the team try to do is that when the couple is reading their vows to each other, we step off to the side. So I'll step off to the groomsman's side or the bridesmaid's side. Just step off to the side and let the couple have the moment in their vows so that it's just a private moment between the two of them.
And it looks nice for pictures.
It looks beautiful for pictures. As a matter of fact, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so just, for the purposes of thinking, where are these vows? They give them to you ahead of time and you pass it to them at that point when they have to read it?
Yeah, so what I do is I ask all my couples to have in the portal itself, they will either have put their vows in there or they will have emailed them to me directly. That's one location the vows will be. So in my booklet that I'm reading from, I always have a copy of their vows in there, just in case as a backup for whatever reason. I never want to be in a situation where a couple looks at me and says, I don't have
I
my
forgot.
vows, right?
Yeah.
I usually ask them before the ceremony starts, but there's so many moving pieces. In the event that I forget, I don't want to never not have the vows with me. Okay. Then what I also suggest is that the couple will prepare in advance, either on some kind of a card, like a cue card or a postcard, or some kind of a little booklet where they'll have prepared their vows, and give that copy to me as well before we start the ceremony. And then I'll put them in my booklet. And then when it comes time, then I will pass each of them their vows either on the card or booklet. And if it's a card, not just a cue card with a plain white back on it, make it nice, decorate it, you know, some kind of paper the color of the ladies' dresses or a postcard. And so in my initial conversation with a couple, I find out if what does the couple like? Do they like to travel? Do they like to do this or that? And then I'll usually suggest, why don't you get a postcard that, you know, has a travel scene of somewhere where you've been, you know, or if you're pet lovers, and, you know, why not have a postcard of a dog, for example, just something to kind of put that other person at ease during that time, because it's an emotional time, but it can be somewhat stressful too, because I talk for a living, but not every couple that's getting married does.
Yeah.
You know, so it's,
you know what, even someone's asking if there are any surprises that have happened during ceremonies. We could talk about that, but I did have, you know, a church ceremony where, you know, the priest says it and the groom just has to repeat. Yeah. And actually I posted it before, I could repost it, but it was so funny but so cute. And the guy kept saying, my waffle wife. And he was going, my lawful life. Then my awful wife. Like, it took him 4 times. It was so funny. Right. So even having to repeat after someone is not always going to work either. So, you know, I like the idea of them being able to go at their own pace, breathe, read. You know, just depends on the type of ceremony you have. And for civil ceremonies, do people typically have a reader, like a reading, or is that their choice?
It's a part of what they choose to put in their ceremony. We can strongly encourage that if they are doing a reading, to have a friend or family member come and do the reading, just to involve a personal friend, and you know, it's not all about the officiant just reading and doing and saying everything. You can have other people involved in your ceremony. If they want to do a reading, and again, a reading doesn't have to be a religious reading. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. There's different options in the portal that. And
do you have any rules or anything about what songs they're allowed to choose or how they walk on the aisle?
Nope.
You guide them if they don't know how to. Obviously, if they don't know what to do going down the aisle, you guide them, but they can line up where they want. And sometimes they'll sit and sometimes they'll stand the bridal party, correct? Depending on
the venue for the most part. I would say that most non-church weddings now, the bridal party are standing. Because again, it's only 20 minutes, 25, maybe 30 minutes max. It's generally a little lighthearted, and there's generally enough room, and you're not infringing on any spaces that, you know, you can't stand or whatever. So I would say most of my couples, the wedding party stands.
So we actually did a wedding in August, and your wife came to do the rehearsal.
Yeah.
And we did the rehearsal, and we were trying to figure out, because they had like 10 or 11 couples. It was crazy. And and we had tried to get them to line up, because it looks really nice when they're all standing there for photos and stuff. And then when you came to the ceremony that day. We had ended up changing it because it was just too many people. They were going to the curtain. We're like,
Right.
you guys are sitting. Now, someone
Yeah.
asked about crazy things that happen at ceremonies. I don't know if you remember this ceremony, but it was
I do.
Natalie and Phil.
Yes, I
And,
remember.
you know, Nat and Phil came out. I don't even know if you know what was going on back there, but it was pandemonium. So I can
Probably
talk
not
about
all
this
of it. No,
because
probably not all of
it's
it.
actually like family. They're family. So so Phil had come out and he was waiting at the front. And the thing was that bridal party, you know, three people in the bridal party had just had babies. And like one had a newborn, the other one had like a few months, the other one had like flower girls. And I don't know if you remember the flower girl darting down the aisle and me chasing her. Do you remember that?
Yeah, yeah, I
I have a
remember.
picture. That was my niece, and I ran down to grab
Okay.
her, and I go in the back, and I'm telling my sister-in-law, my brother-in-law, like, "Could you watch your kids?" I was freaking out back because, you know, we weren't ready to start, and it was a little bit awkward the way they had the aisles because of the centerpieces that were there, the
Right.
floral pieces.
Yeah.
Were it was awkward for people to get in their seats. So the one thing I like about having a civil ceremony is if it says start at 5, I mean 5:05 is okay. It's not like a church where you have to like turn around and never,
Right.
you know, get people in and out. So that I find that nicer.
Right.
But people were asking about crazy things that were happening. So in the back, um, one of them had a newborn, and her mother was supposed to come. Mother-in-law was supposed to come and take care of this baby, and she hadn't shown up yet.
Right.
So we were waiting for the mom to show up, and that's why we couldn't start because we had this
Right.
newborn infant. We didn't know what to do with it, and I couldn't. I wasn't gonna like take that responsibility. But yeah, I don't know if you remember. Even after I was like on the floor holding down my niece, the flower
Right.
girl. I don't know if you noticed. I
I
was
didn't
literally
see
like
that.
holding. It was so. I have photos. I'm gonna find that one and send it. I have professional photos of me holding the flower girl down because she all she wanted to do was run. It was
Hmm.
so funny. But sometimes,
Wow.
like, I'm really glad you kept your concentration on that because I was losing it. I was sweating so much. And
So
do
what
you
I,
know that
yeah.
the heat had broken. The air conditioning broke in that venue that night.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
So
Yeah.
the rest of the night was a really hot, rainy day. I don't know if you
Wow.
remember.
Yes, it was
And
quite humid. Yes. Very
the
humid.
rest of
Yes.
the night was fun. But yeah,
Yeah.
do you want to tell us about some crazy things that happen at ceremonies? You
Well,
don't have to mention.
some surprise. No, we won't mention names. Yeah, some surprises. Like this, when I think of surprises, I think of two different categories. One is surprises in the actual ceremony itself. So we never want to be in a position where the couple doesn't know what's going to be said and done, and that's the reason why we have the portal, and the couple gets to create or choose the wording and edit the wording so that everything that's said in the ceremony and everything that's done in the ceremony is exactly what they wanted said and done. So in that regard, no, there's no surprises for your ceremony. I know that that's a question that I believe Lori's asking. Uh, in that regard, Lori, no surprises whatsoever. You are the one that's writing the ceremony, the script, and so there will be no surprises. In terms of odd things that happen, yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of stories from. I had one bride and groom at a venue, and it was kind of an elevated stage that they were standing on, and I looked at the groom probably just before we were about to do the rings, and the groom looked like he was ready to pass out. I mean, he was chalk white. And then in a couple of moments, he turned from chalk white to like green. And I said to him, I said, "Are you okay?" And he says, "Yeah." "You sure?" He says, "Yeah." Like saying this, trying to say this under my breath in between, please take the ring, place it on finger, and repeat after me. And going back and forth with him. And then eventually he says, "I need water." And I'm like, "Water? Where do I get water?" Like
I always
this
have
is,
a bottle with me.
yeah, but you're at the back of the room.
No, no.
And
Usually I'm at the side. Usually
I'm
I
up
try to
on,
stay at the side. It depends on
I'm
the
up on
venue.
this, I'm up on the stage with, it's just the couple and myself on the stage. The bridal party are kind of down the stairs. And so literally I'm there with just the two of them. And he says, "Oh, there's water in the back room right there." And ladies and gentlemen, just if I can pause for just a second. So I grab the water, give him a sip of water, and he's fine. And then a few minutes later, he's like ready to pass out. So I literally had to stop the ceremony, get the couple of the groomsmen to literally take him down to the front, sit him in the front row for a couple of minutes. And the bride doesn't know what's going on, whether he's passing out or what's going on. She didn't even know he was not feeling well. And so I had to stay with her, kind of tell a couple of
Oh,
jokes to
no.
keep people entertained for a couple of minutes. And
See, you're good at that. See?
well,
Well,
you kind of
mental
have
note. Next time I have a ceremony with you, I'm going to stick the water somewhere at the front, like they do when, the comedians go on stage and they have their water.
yeah,
We'll put
yeah.
one on the little table.
But sometimes it's not appropriate to have it there because there's not really a place to store it, right? Unless it's
Yeah.
behind a flower or something like that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyway, we got through it. He was okay. He just had dehydrated from his festivities the night before.
You
And
can't, like someone in our position, you can't be someone that panics when it
yeah.
doesn't go.
Oh
Like
no.
we have a plan. We both have plans, but we have to know how to think on the spot and not
Yeah.
panic and
Yeah.
figure out how to entertain the people really if something's
Yeah.
happening or whatever.
Absolutely. And in this case,
Yeah.
like everybody is looking at you as an officiant saying, okay, what's going on? And you yourself don't know, but at the same time you can't panic, you can't freak out. You
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
kind of update everybody as best you can. And yeah, I've had a couple like that. I've had, bridesmaids that fainted and, different things like that. But that's
I've had
life.
dresses split open for
Oh
bridesmaid
yeah,
dresses.
wardrobe
Yeah.
malfunctions.
Have you ever had like a no-show? That's never happened to me, but
The couple, no.
no, like one of them doesn't show, but they
No,
like change their
I've
mind.
never had that happen. No,
No, me either. Thank God.
I had a best man that didn't show up, but never had a
Really?
couple that. Yeah,
That's easy. Someone can step in.
yeah, yeah. That was a minor detail.
Yeah.
I see there's a question on here that says, any ideas for special ceremony moments, like remembering a loved one who has passed or a moment for the couple to symbolize the moment. So yeah, if it's symbolizing or remembering somebody that's passed, there's a few options. One is if it's in a venue that has space, then I've seen couples who have set up a table secondary to like a signing table, and they'll have a picture and
A
sometimes
memorial.
maybe even a candle lit
Mhm.
in their honor. Sometimes it's appropriate to mention the loved ones that's passed. If it's a close family member, like if it's a parent or something like that, or one of the persons that's getting married, sometimes it's nice to mention them and kind of honor them. And yeah, I mean, things like that we can talk about with the officiant and kind of put those things into place for commemorating the moment between the couple. I mean, there's the things like the sand landing, the unity
Yeah, I was
candle,
gonna say the sands.
those kinds of things. Yeah.
I can't remember. This was like, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago, and I just can't remember if it was you. So if it wasn't, I apologize. But have you ever done a Goth wedding?
Not a full Goth wedding, no.
Like, okay, I can remember it was you because I did one once, and they did the hand tying ceremony. Have you ever done that?
Oh, the hand fastening? Yeah. Well, I've
Yeah,
done those. Yeah, I've done those many times. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
And again,
We,
in that portal that we give you access to, the couples access to, there's a whole bunch of different types of mini ceremonies that you can do in there. Like the Mother's Rose presentation, for example. That's a really nice, touching moment when the mothers get a rose each for, their significant involvement in the couple's lives or whatever. And, the moms will eat that up.
that's nice. I like that.
Yeah, it's a very emotional, very nice moment for sure.
So there's one question here because we have like maybe 5 minutes left. Do you
Yeah.
allow a bride to do readings, or do you recommend another person? I personally would recommend someone else to do a reading, but have you ever had a bride and groom do readings?
Only their vows. Only their
Yeah,
vows.
I would recommend them doing a reading.
Yeah.
It's nice to
Yeah.
involve someone else.
Yeah, I think involve somebody else. Just sit back and enjoy the moment, enjoy the day as best you can. And, your chances are you're going to forget 90% of what happened. And that's why it's important to get good photos and possibly video, because the ceremony itself you're going to forget most of what happens. And that's just the reality. That's just the way it is. So just sit back. Don't be worried about having to do another reading. Just maybe share your vows with the other person. And
Yeah, you have
and
too
then,
much to worry about.
yeah, just enjoy the moment. Just enjoy the moment. But
Um,
I wanted to come back to one thing real quickly before we
Go
have
ahead.
to get off.
Yeah.
When we were talking about the vows, so I had mentioned that I step off, or all of our officiants step off to the side, depending on the venue, of course. What we've started to do as well is when I interview the couple initially, one of the questions that we'll ask the couple is for your photography and your video team, do you have one photographer and one videographer, or do you have two of each? And the reason why I want to know that is because during the vows, what I've started to do is, if you can imagine where I'm standing normally, I ask the photographer sometimes now to come in and take my place so that they're getting a shot of the couple sharing their vows with each other, but it's from my perspective. And so they get to see mom in the front row with a little
Yeah.
tear in her eye, or dad is there and he's kind of just his eyes are glued on his son or daughter or whatever. And so it's a very nice, touching moment, very emotional moment as well. With, you can capture not only the couple sharing their vows, but their families in the front row. And so
Yeah.
a photographer, you can work that out with the photographers and say, okay, maybe there's one at the back that's going to get some shots, and then the one that's at the front, you can move into place, and the one at the back steps off to the side so that they're not in the aisle when that photographer's taking the shot. So that's a real nice moment. That's a real nice shot as well.
That's really nice because you know what? A lot of churches have so many rules that they're not even, the photographers are not allowed to come onto where the altar is, and or though I've had a priest tell me, bring me up, stop the ceremony, bring me up, and tell me to tell the photographer to take their clicking noise off. I don't want to hear any
Oh,
more clicking.
oh
So
yeah,
it's nice to have that freedom when you have a ceremony. But
yeah.
I really appreciate you coming on. I learned a lot of stuff tonight that I didn't even know. So, and it's always a pleasure seeing you again. And hopefully, I'm sure we're going to see each other this year. And last question for both of us. Someone had asked, do we think fall weddings are going to be happening this year? I personally think they will. I'm hopeful that they will. I will not recommend anybody in fall to move yet. I don't know if you agree with me, but I'm hopeful for the fall. What do
Well,
you think?
I'm very hopeful for the fall as well. I just don't know what even if there's restrictions lifted on the number of people that can be at a wedding by the fall. My thought and my concern is what about the travel of people that are coming in for the wedding? So, for example, if a couple's getting married in Toronto and they have international
Yeah.
guests coming in, for what are those travel restrictions going to be like in the fall?
We're really
But
gonna have they're gonna really have to think about the rules that they put
yeah,
on into things.
yeah,
That is one thing. But
yeah.
we will keep talking about it every week because every week the COVID story changes. So thank you again, and
Thank you
we'll
so
see
much for
you this year sometime.
having me on here, and it's always a pleasure to talk. I've been stoked all day waiting for a chance to talk
I
about
know, me
ceremonies.
too.
I love it. So thank you so
Good. I
much,
can tell you love
Rosemary.
it, and that's why you're good at what you do.
Thank you. Appreciate the time,
And
and
follow
bye,
Enduring
everybody.
Promises.
Yes,
Don't
at
forget
Enduring
to
Promises.
follow,
Yes.
share, and whatever else that you have to do. Click, share. And this will be on for 24 hours. And then I'm also going to post it on YouTube. So I'll let you know when that gets
Perfect.
posted.
Excellent.
Okay? Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Have a
Have a
great
good
evening.
night.
Bye,
Go have a
everybody.
glass
Take
of
care.
wine.
All right. Thank
Bye.
you. Bye now.
Bye. Okay, everyone. That's Wedding Wednesday. If you have any more questions, do not hesitate to email me, text me, private message me, whatever it is. And we will see you again next week. Keep enjoying your COVID, your time off. I'm gonna go have a glass of wine now. Bye.